Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping right into a totally fascinating way to look at how businesses, organizations, and honestly, even our own daily routines actually function. We're going to look at how systems breathe. To really get this, I want you to picture a quiet terrace. It's set up kind of like a workshop. It feels methodical, full of invisible gears, but at the same time, deeply human. And sitting right there on this terrace are two people, Mira and Arav. And let me tell you, they are about to completely reshape how we think about the mechanics of the world around us. Picture this. There's an old brass caliper, the kind they used to use to measure textile thickness, sitting next to a simple packet of peppered sesame sticks and a printout of a production schedule from a local bakery. I know, it sounds like a totally random assortment of things, right? But these items actually set the stage perfectly for what we're talking about today. They represent the physical, the shared, and the planned. Mira and Arav use these exact objects to anchor this incredible conversation about systems, not as cold, rigid corporate structures, but actually as a form of human stewardship. It's all about breathing life into the mechanical. Which brings us right to the absolute core thesis of our explainer. Operations is not just process, it's presence. I mean, just sit with that for a second. We almost always think of operations as, endless spreadsheets, clipboards, ticking clocks. But Mira shifts that perspective completely. She's telling us to look at the way things are made, not as these robotic mechanical tasks to just rush through, but as actions that actually require rhythm and profound respect. Okay, let's dive into part one, operations, the hidden heartbeat. So, at its very core, operations management is defined as the art of designing, running, and improving systems that produce goods or deliver services. Sure, that sounds a bit textbook, but as Arav points out, it really isn't just about machines. It's about creating a flow. Think about a bakery making millet cookies. They don't just toss some ingredients in a bowl and hope for the best, right? They have to carefully plan their procurement, manage the exact heat of those ovens, track their inventory, and make sure the delivery is timed perfectly so those cookies arrive fresh. Operations is literally the vital heartbeat behind every single offering we interact with. And the scope here, it's just massive. We're talking everything from planning and sourcing to quality control, logistics, and feedback. For example, a textile firm doesn't just weave fabric. They've got to coordinate the dyeing, the stitching, the packaging, the dispatch, the whole shebang. Or think of a school. A school doesn't just teach. Behind the scenes, it's scheduling classes, managing the physical facilities, tracking who's absent, preparing reports. The big takeaway here is that operations isn't just the back end of an organization. It is absolutely the backbone. And that naturally brings us to part two, physical space, location, and layout. Now, this is where a huge philosophical shift happens. Traditionally, when businesses choose a location, it's strictly about geography and logistics, just looking at a map. But if we look at this through a human-centric lens, choosing a location is actually about generosity. It's asking, who are you serving and how close are you to them? And layout? Normally, that's just a game of maximizing square footage through clever design. But Mira and Arav reframe layout as dignity. It's all about how the actual physical arrangement of a space impacts the efficiency, the safety, and even the emotional state of the human beings working inside it. Let's put this into perspective with some real-world examples. Imagine that bakery we talked about redesigning its kitchen layout just to cut down on unnecessary movement. The outcome? Way better hygiene and a much easier day for the bakers. Or a publishing house decides to set up shop right near a major railway junction. The result there? Costs plummet, and books get into readers' hands much faster. How about a school that deliberately arranges its classrooms to capture natural sunlight and block out street noise? That gives students an environment full of light and focus. Or a cooperative dairy that sites itself geographically close to both its local farmers and the urban markets. That doesn't just cut down on transport time, it actively builds real trust within the community. So, thoughtful, human-centric choices yield incredibly tangible benefits. All right, so we've got the physical space mapped out. Let's move right into part three, ERP, the digital stitching. You've probably heard the acronym ERP tossed around, Enterprise Resource Planning. The textbook definition is that it's a digital platform that integrates different functions into one single system, allowing for real-time updates and cutting down on duplicate work. But what's really interesting here is Arav's take on it. To him, an ERP isn't just clunky software that people complain about having to log into. It's the stitching. It's this invisible digital thread that lets completely different parts of an organization actually talk to each other seamlessly. Think about all these wildly different departments.
finance doing budgets, inventory watching stock levels, HR managing staff records, sales looking at customer data, procurement handling vendor contracts. Normally, these guys operate in total silos. They don't talk. But inside an ERP, they are completely interwoven. When that cooperative dairy uses an ERP, they aren't just logging numbers on a spreadsheet. They're tracking the milk collection, issuing payments to farmers, managing their stock, and routing their delivery trucks all at the exact same time. Same for the publishing house. They're seamlessly managing incoming manuscripts, calculating author royalties, coordinating the printers, and tracking distribution. The software essentially becomes the central nervous system connecting the entire body. But, and this is a big but, as Mira rightly points out, you absolutely cannot rush that stitching. Setting this up requires a ton of patience. Look at the textile firm's phased ERP rollout as a perfect example. They didn't just walk in one Monday and flip a massive digital switch. They did it in phases. Phase 1, let's just get inventory under control. Phase 2, okay, now let's integrate finance. Phase 3, finally, let's bring in HR. They took their time. They gave people training, they allowed for adaptation, and most importantly, they respected the existing rhythm of the people actually doing the work. You have to honor the flow of the people using these tools.
So we've covered the fiscal and we've covered the digital. That brings us to part 4, scheduling with rhythm and care.
Once your whole operation is set up, you still have to figure out exactly what happens and when it happens. It basically breaks down into 3 key steps. First, loading. This is assigning specific tasks to resources, like picking which machine or which person does what. Second, sequencing, deciding the exact order those tasks need to happen in. And third, monitoring, actually tracking the progress to make sure it's working. So a bakery schedules its oven slots based on the type of dough. A dairy sequences its delivery trucks based on the distance they have to travel and the morning demand. It's really about intentionally deciding how the energy of the day is going to be spent.
Which ultimately leads us to a really profound realization about balance. The systems we build have to serve people, not the other way around. Operations, yes, they absolutely must be efficient, but they also have to be empathetic to the worker. ERP software needs to be mathematically precise, for sure, but rolling it out has to be patient. And our schedules must be timely, but they also need to be tender. It's all about merging that strict, necessary operational control with a really deep, profound sense of care.
So let's drift back to that quiet terrace we started on. The brass caliper is sitting completely still. Those peppered sesame sticks are mostly gone by now. The space just feels like this warm human control room, layered, thoughtful, and full of rhythm. And Mira and Arav leave us with this brilliant summary. Operations is not just process, it's presence. And ERP is not just software, it's stitching. It is such a great reminder that whatever systems we are building or managing out there, it is fundamentally a human endeavor. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with the exact questions Mira and Arav jotted down as their day ended. Ask yourself, what systems do you shape in your own life for work? How do you honor the flow of the people around you? What tools actually help you listen rather than just dictate? And finally, how do you strike that balance between precision and patience? Take a moment to really reflect on your own operational impact. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep looking for the heartbeat in the systems around you.